Have you ever noticed how one person can walk into a room and completely shift the energy? Maybe they're not yelling, maybe they're not even saying much, but the tension follows them like a shadow. Suddenly you feel drained, on edge, or second guessing yourself, and all because of them. That's the power difficult people have when you give them access to your peace. And let's be honest, we've all been there at work, at home, even within our own families. You try to stay calm, you try to be patient, but it feels like no matter what you do, they pull you into their storm. Here's the truth. Most people never realize you don't have to fight every storm. You don't have to absorb someone else's negativity and carry it like it belongs to you. Peace is not something difficult people can steal. It's something we hand over when we give them control of our emotions. And the moment you understand that, you take the first step in reclaiming your power. Difficult people will always exist. You can't avoid them completely. But what you can do is learn to master yourself so that their chaos no longer has power over you. Think about it. How much of your life, your energy, your happiness has been wasted replaying arguments in your head, reacting to someone's toxic words, or trying to win over a person who was determined to misunderstand you? What could your life look like if you stopped giving them that control? The secret isn't about changing them, because you can't. The secret is about changing the way you handle them, recognizing their behavior for what it is, protecting your peace with boundaries, and standing so steady in your own strength that they no longer shake you. When you learn to do that, you stop surviving difficult people and start mastering them. And once you've mastered them, you get your peace back. You get your power back. So let's dig into how you can stop letting difficult people control your emotions and start taking back the one thing they never deserved in the first place: your peace. The first step in handling difficult people and taking back your peace is recognizing their behavior for what it truly is and not making it your responsibility to carry. Most of us fall into the trap of internalizing the negativity of others. Someone lashes out at you and suddenly you're replaying their words all day long. Someone criticizes you unfairly and you start questioning whether maybe they're right. Someone gives you the cold shoulder and you wonder what you did wrong. The truth is, most of the time, their behavior has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Yet if you don't recognize this, you end up making their problem your burden. Here's the reality. People project. A person who is bitter will spread bitterness. A person who is insecure will try to cut others down. A person who is controlling will seek out people they can manipulate. If you don't know how to see this clearly, you'll absorb their energy and mistake it for truth. That's how difficult people win. They don't need facts, they just need you to take their behavior personally. And once you do, they've got you. Think of it like this. Imagine someone carrying a heavy bag of trash. They're tired of holding it, it stinks, it weighs them down. So what do? They throw some of it at you. Now you're standing there with garbage in your hands that never belonged to you. Most people will carry it, complain about it, maybe even throw it on themselves without realizing it was never theirs to begin with. Recognizing their behavior is like saying, wait a second, this isn't mine. I don't need to carry this. That one realization alone keeps you from walking around weighed down by someone else's toxicity. Difficult people are often masters of disguise. They can make you believe you're the unreasonable one, you're the weak one, or you're the problem. That's why recognizing patterns is crucial. Ask yourself, do they constantly shift blame? Do they create drama out of nothing? Do they only reach out when they need something? Do they gaslight you into doubting your own perspective? The more you become aware of these behaviors, the less personal they feel. Instead of thinking, why are they treating me like this? You begin to think, oh, this is who they are. This is their pattern. This isn't about me. And that shift in perspective is how you start detaching emotionally. But recognition is not just about labeling someone toxic. It's about understanding their behavior without letting it rewrite your truth. For example, someone calls you lazy. Do you immediately go into defense mode, replaying it in your head all day, maybe even working extra just to prove them wrong? Or do you stop and think, that's their opinion and it doesn't define me. I know who I am. Recognition allows you to step back and evaluate. You ask yourself, Is this feedback based on fact, or is this someone projecting their own issues onto me? Most of the time, it's the latter. Here's the trap many fall into. They think if they can just explain themselves better, the difficult person will finally understand, but you can't reason with someone committed to misunderstanding you. Recognition means you stop wasting your energy trying to make them see what they don't want to see. You stop playing their game. Instead, you see the behavior, name it for what it is, and refuse to take it on as your truth. Let's be real, this isn't easy at first. We are wired to want acceptance. When someone criticizes or ignores us, our instinct is to fix it. But once you recognize that their criticism is usually about them, their frustration, their insecurity, their pain, you stop trying to fix yourself for them. You start realizing that their storm doesn't have to become your storm. A powerful technique is detaching language. Instead of saying, they hurt me, try saying, they are showing hurtful behavior. That small shift takes the focus off of you as the problem and puts it back where it belongs on their behavior. This doesn't excuse them, but it prevents you from internalizing it. It keeps you from handing over your peace every time someone acts out. Another important piece of recognition is learning to separate facts from feelings. Someone may tell you you're incompetent, but what are the facts? Are you really incompetent, or are they frustrated because you didn't give them the answer they wanted? Someone may ignore your boundaries, but what are the facts? Are you really selfish for saying no, or are they simply upset because they didn't get their way? Recognition means slowing down long enough to check reality against their narrative. More often than not, you'll see the problem lies in their expectations, not in your worth. When you begin to recognize difficult behavior without owning it, you create space between yourself and the negativity. That space is where peace lives. That space is where you can breathe, think clearly, and choose your response instead of reacting out of emotion. It's the difference between being pulled into their chaos and standing steady in your calm. Think of people like mirrors. Some reflect back truth. Others reflect back distortion. If you don't know the difference, you'll believe every distorted reflection you see. But when you learn to recognize distortion, you stop arguing with it. You simply don't accept it. You remind yourself, this isn't who I am. This is just their reflection. I don't have to carry it. This is the foundation of handling difficult people: awareness without absorption. Recognize their behavior for what it is: projection, manipulation, insecurity, drama, and stop making it your responsibility to fix or carry. Once you master that, you strip them of their greatest weapon, the ability to make you doubt yourself. And the moment you stop doubting yourself, you begin to take back your peace. When it comes to dealing with difficult people, there's one truth that will change your life the moment you fully accept it. You cannot control them. You cannot make them kinder, more respectful, more understanding, or more reasonable. You can try, and you will waste endless amounts of energy trying, but it won't work. Why? Because people only change when they want to change, and most difficult people aren't interested in changing. They're interested in control. So if you want to take back your peace and power, you have to shift your focus to the one thing that's actually within your control, your response. Now, most of us don't respond. We react. Someone yells, and we yell back. Someone criticizes, and we defend ourselves. Someone gives us attitude, and we throw it right back at them. It's natural. It's instinct. But here's the problem. Every time you react, you're letting them pull the strings. You're playing their game. Difficult people thrive on reaction because it feeds them, it validates their chaos. When you give them an emotional outburst, you hand them your peace on a silver platter. Something about it. A coworker makes a snide comment in a meeting. If you snap back, they've succeeded in pulling you down to their level. If you go quiet, but stew on it for hours, they've still stolen your mental peace. But if you control your response, if you remain calm, measured, and steady, you starve them of the reaction they wanted. And in that moment, you win. Controlling your response is not about being passive. It's not about letting people walk all over you. It's about discipline. It's about choosing not to let someone else dictate your emotions. It's about saying, I may not be able to stop your behavior, but I can stop it from owning me. That choice is where real power lives. Let's break it down. When you control your response, you create space between their action and your reaction. That space is your freedom. In that space, you get to decide, do I respond with calm? Do I walk away? Do I set a boundary? Do I ignore it altogether? Without that space, you're just reacting, firing back on autopilot. And autopilot reactions are exactly what difficult people rely on. Here's an example. Someone tries to bait you into an argument. They know which buttons to push. They've done it before, and let's say you bite, you argue, you defend, you explain. What happens? You leave the conversation drained, angry, and second-guessing yourself. They leave satisfied because they got exactly what they wanted, your energy. Now flip it. Same person, same bait, but this time you pause, you breathe, you decide not to give them the reaction they're hunting for. Maybe you respond calmly, maybe you don't respond at all. Either way, the outcome changes. They don't get fed, and you keep your peace. This takes practice. It takes self-awareness. You have to train yourself to notice when you're being triggered. That quick rush of anger, that tightening in your chest, that urge to fire back. That's the moment you pause. That's the moment you remind yourself, I can't control them, but I can control me. It's simple, but it's not easy. It requires discipline, and discipline is built through repetition. Some people confuse controlling their response with being weak or letting things slide. That's not what this is. Controlling your response is one of the strongest things you can do because it means you're not ruled by impulse. You're not ruled by emotion. You're not ruled by someone else's bad behavior. You're ruled by your own choices, and choice is power. There's another layer here. When you respond instead of react, you keep your clarity. Difficult people thrive on chaos. They want you off balance. They want you emotional because emotional people make mistakes. Calm people, on the other hand, think clearly. Calm people see through manipulation. Calm people don't hand over power. And calm people are far more difficult to control. Controlling your response also sets the tone for how others treat you. When people see that you don't rise to bait, that you don't crumble under criticism, that you don't hand out free access to your emotions, they start treating you differently. Even the difficult ones notice because they realize you're not an easy target anymore. Here's a technique. Respond with neutrality. If someone is trying to get under your skin, give them nothing. Short, calm, factual responses. No defensiveness. No over-explaining. Just steady composure. Over time, they'll learn that you're not someone they can play games with, or better yet, they'll get bored and move on. But here's the key. Controlling your response isn't about them, it's about you. It's about preserving your peace no matter who stands in front of you. Because life is full of difficult people. At work, at home, even in random encounters, if your peace depends on everyone else behaving perfectly, you'll never have peace. But if your peace depends on your own response, you'll always have it. And yes, there will be times when you slip. You'll react. You'll get triggered. You'll say something you wish you hadn't. That's okay. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is progress. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes to pause, breathe, and choose your response instead of handing it over. Think of your response like a currency. Every time you react emotionally, you're spending it, and once it's spent, you can't get it back. The question is, who are you spending it on? Are you spending it on people who drain you, or are you saving it for people and situations that actually deserve it? When you start guarding your responses like they matter, you stop wasting them on people who don't. At the end of the day, controlling your response is the ultimate act of self-respect. It's saying, I refuse to let you decide how I feel. I refuse to let you rent space in my head. I refuse to give you the power you didn't earn. That's how you win against difficult people. Not by changing them, but by mastering yourself. And once you learn to do that, something incredible happens. The difficult people in your life lose their grip. They no longer dictate your mood. They no longer control your energy. You walk into the same situations, but this time you walk in with peace that can't be touched. And that's real power. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. They are not about shutting people out. They are about deciding who gets access to you and under what conditions. And when it comes to handling difficult people, boundaries are not optional. They are essential. Without them, you are a wide open field where anyone can trample at will. With them, you are a guarded fortress, not impenetrable, but intentional about who enters. If you want peace, if you want power, if you want control over your life, you must learn to set boundaries like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Here's why. Difficult people do not respect limits naturally. They will take as much as you allow. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile, and then blame you for not giving them more. They thrive in spaces without boundaries because it gives them room to manipulate, control, and drain. But when you draw clear lines, when you stand firm, you disrupt their control. Boundaries are the signal that says, I value myself enough not to let you decide how I live, how I feel, or how I spend my energy. Think of boundaries as your personal rules of engagement. They define how others can interact with you, what behaviors you will accept, and what consequences will follow if those behaviors are crossed. Without them, you're vulnerable. With them, you're protected. Here's a mistake many people make. They think setting boundaries makes them mean, selfish, or uncaring. That's not true. Boundaries are not cruelty. Boundaries are clarity. They are the most honest form of communication because they tell others exactly where you stand. And the people who truly care about you will respect them. The ones who don't, they were never invested in you. They were invested in what they could take from you. So how do you set boundaries with difficult people? It starts with knowing your limits. What drains you? What behaviors cross the line for you? Is it constant criticism? Is it being interrupted? Is it being manipulated into guilt? You cannot set boundaries if you don't first identify what needs protecting. This is about self-awareness, about listening to the moments when you feel your peace being pulled away. Those feelings are clues pointing to where a boundary is missing. Once you know your limits, the next step is communication. A boundary unspoken is a boundary unenforced. Difficult people will not guess where your lines are. They will test and push until you tell them. That's why you must state your boundaries clearly and firmly. Not with anger, not with apology, but with confidence. For example, I will not engage in conversations where I'm being shouted at. If it continues, I will leave. Or I'm happy to help, but I need notice in advance. I can't drop everything at the last minute. Simple, direct, non-negotiable. But here's the critical part. Boundaries without consequences are just suggestions. If you set a line but don't enforce it, you teach people that your words mean nothing. Difficult people will always test boundaries. It's in their nature. The moment they cross the line, you must follow through on the consequence you set. If you said you'd leave the conversation, leave. If you said you'd stop engaging when disrespected, stop. Consistency is what gives boundaries their power. Without it, boundaries collapse. Yes, this can be uncomfortable. Yes, people will push back. In fact, when you first set boundaries with someone who's used to having full access to you, they will resist. They may accuse you of being selfish. They may guilt you. They may escalate their behavior to test how serious you are. That's normal. Remember, the pushback is proof the boundary is needed. Don't let their resistance weaken your resolve. Hold firm. Because once they realize you are serious, they either adjust or they remove themselves. Either outcome protects your peace. There's another layer here. Boundaries are not just about protecting yourself from others. They're about teaching others how to treat you. Every time you set a boundary, you're sending a message. This is who I am. This is what I will and will not accept. People learn how to respect you by watching how you respect yourself. If you allow disrespect without consequence, you're teaching them it's acceptable. If you enforce your boundaries consistently, you're teaching them that respect is the only option. Boundaries are also about self-preservation. And think of your energy like a battery. Every interaction either drains or recharges you. Difficult people are drainers. They will pull every ounce of energy you allow. Boundaries are how you conserve that battery for what matters most. for your goals, your loved ones, your purpose. Every no you say to chaos is a yes to peace. Every limit you set is a declaration that your energy is too valuable to waste. It's also important to remember that boundaries are not one size fits all. The boundary you set with a toxic coworker will look different from the one you set with a family member, but the principle is the same. You decide what access looks like. You decide how much of yourself you're willing to give, and you decide when enough is enough. Here's something else: boundaries are not static. They evolve as you grow. What you tolerated before may no longer be acceptable now. That's not you being difficult. That's you leveling up. Don't be afraid to adjust your boundaries as you become more aware of your worth. Growth requires recalibration. Ultimately, boundaries are a reflection of self-respect. They are proof that you are willing to protect your peace, even if it means disappointing others. They are proof that you are willing to lose people rather than lose yourself. And when you start living by strong boundaries, you'll notice something powerful. Difficult people lose their grip. They can't drain you like they used to. They can't manipulate you like they once did. They can try. But your boundaries act as a shield, keeping their chaos on the outside while your peace stays intact on the inside. So yes, set boundaries like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your mental health depends on it. Your relationships depend on it. Your future depends on it. Boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. They are not about shutting people out. They are about letting the right people in. And the moment you start honoring them, you begin to live with a level of peace and power that difficult people can't touch. Detachment is one of the most powerful tools you will ever master when dealing with difficult people. It is the ability to step back emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, so that another person's chaos no longer controls your inner world. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cold, heartless, or dismissive. It means you refuse to hand over your peace as payment for someone else's dysfunction. It means you choose to observe without absorbing, to acknowledge without being consumed, and to respond without being trapped. This is where you disempower their influence. Difficult people thrive on pulling you in. They want your reaction, your energy, your emotional investment. That's their fuel. If you give it to them, you feed the cycle. They push, you respond. They push harder, you spiral. But when you detach, you cut off their fuel source. You stop feeding the fire. You show them they can dance, scream, guilt trip, or criticize all they want. But you are no longer playing the game. And without your participation, their influence fades. Detachment begins in the mind. Most of us keep difficult people alive long after they've left the room. We replay the argument. We rehearse what we should have said. We imagine future confrontations. That mental loop is how they continue to control us. But detachment breaks that cycle. It says, I don't owe you space in my head. I don't owe you the privilege of my thoughts. It's about reclaiming your mental real estate and using it for something that actually builds you instead of something that drains you. Think about it like this. If someone walked into your home and started throwing garbage on your floor, you wouldn't let them. You'd throw them out, lock the door, and clean up. Yet we allow difficult people to dump their emotional garbage into our minds all the time. Detachment is how you lock that door. It's how you say, not here, not today. But here's the challenge. Detachment is not automatic. It requires practice. You have to train yourself to separate what's yours from what's theirs. Their anger, not yours. Their manipulation, not yours. Their negativity, not yours. You acknowledge it exists, but you refuse to internalize it. That's the art of emotional detachment. Detachment also requires reframing. Instead of personalizing someone's behavior, they're attacking me, they're insulting me, they're trying to hurt me, you remind yourself this is about them. This is who they are, not who I am. When you reframe, their words and actions lose the sting. You see them as patterns, not personal truth. You stop asking, why are they doing this to me? And start saying, this is how they operate, and I don't have to buy into it. That shift alone disarms so much of their influence. Detachment is also physical when necessary. Sometimes the best way to disempower someone's hold on you is to remove yourself from their proximity. That could mean leaving a toxic conversation, spending less time with certain people, or in some cases, cutting ties completely. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. You don't owe endless access to people who constantly deplete you. Choosing space is choosing survival. And the more space you create, the less grip they have over your emotions. One of the strongest forms of detachment is silence. Silence is not weakness. It's not surrender. It's strategy. When you stop giving difficult people your words, your justifications, your defenses, you starve them of the attention they crave. Silence can be louder than any argument because it communicates one simple truth: I am no longer available for this. That kind of silence is not empty, it is powerful, and it is freeing. Of course, detachment doesn't mean apathy. You can still love someone, care about them, or work with them while staying detached. What it means is that you no longer allow their moods to dictate your own or their behavior to define your self-worth. You love without losing yourself. You care without being consumed. You work alongside them without letting them destroy your inner balance. That's the balance of compassionate detachment. Here's something you must remember. Detachment doesn't make you cold, it makes you strong. It takes incredible strength to sit across from someone who's trying to provoke you and remain steady. It takes strength to hear their insults and not let them sink into your soul. It takes strength to walk away from a fight that's not worth your energy. That strength is what disempowers them, because no matter how hard they try, they can't shake you. And once you master detachment, something remarkable happens. You see clearly. When you're tangled in emotion, it's hard to spot manipulation. It's hard to see through the games. But when you detach, the fog lifts. You recognize patterns for what they are. You see the tactics being used, and suddenly you're no longer a participant. You're an observer. Observers have control. Participants are trapped. Which one would you rather be? Detachment is also contagious. When you stop engaging in someone's drama, they eventually adjust, maybe not right away, but over time, they realize you're not giving them what they want. They might escalate at first, but eventually they either change how they interact with you or they move on to an easier target. Either way, you've won. It's important to understand that detachment is not a one-time act. It's a practice. Some days you'll nail it, you'll stay calm, steady, unshaken. Other days you'll slip, you'll react, you'll get pulled in, you'll hand them your energy. That's okay. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Each time you practice detachment, you're building muscle. Over time, that muscle becomes your default. At its core, detachment is freedom. It's the freedom to decide that someone else's chaos does not belong to you. It's the freedom to live your life without being held hostage by their moods, their words, their manipulation. It's the freedom to walk away mentally or physically and know that your peace is intact, no matter what storm they bring. So when you face difficult people, remind yourself you don't have to fight every battle. You don't have to attend every argument. You don't have to carry what isn't yours. Detachment is not giving up. It's leveling up. It's taking back your power by refusing to play their game. And when you master detachment, you don't just survive difficult people, you rise above them. When you've spent too much time dealing with difficult people, it's easy to lose sight of the most important person in the equation. You get so caught up in their moods, their behavior, their endless demands, that your own needs, goals, and happiness start to fade into the background. You bend, you adapt, you adjust, and before you know it, your life is no longer about what you want, but about how to manage them. This is how difficult people steal not just your peace, but your focus, and the only way to reclaim it is to shift your attention back where it belongs, on yourself. Here's the hard truth. The more you chase their approval, their understanding, or their validation, the less you invest in yourself. You end up pouring your energy into people who are determined not to appreciate it. And the more you do that, the emptier you become. But when you redirect that same energy inward toward your growth, your purpose, your goals, you stop feeding what drains you and start building what sustains you. That shift is everything. Think about it. Imagine if all the hours you spent replaying arguments in your head, crafting the perfect response, or worrying about what someone thought of you were redirected into learning a new skill, pursuing a goal, or simply resting and recharging. Imagine the life you could build if you invested in yourself as much as you invested in trying to manage someone else's dysfunction. That's the opportunity sitting in front of you every single day. Shifting your focus back to yourself is not selfish. It's survival. Because if you keep making your life about everyone else, especially difficult people, you will burn out, you will lose yourself, and you cannot show up fully for the world if you are constantly depleted. Self-focus is not about ignoring others, it's about fueling yourself so that you can decide from a place of strength where your energy goes. The truth is, difficult people thrive when you're distracted. They thrive when you're too busy managing their chaos to notice your own dreams slipping away. They thrive when you're giving them your time, attention, and emotional energy instead of using it to build yourself. But when you stop handing them that focus, they lose their grip. Because suddenly you're no longer orbiting around them, you're the center of your own universe again. Here's how this looks in practice. Instead of obsessing over why someone doesn't like you, you pour that energy into becoming someone you're proud of. Instead of giving all your mental bandwidth to what they said or did, you use that bandwidth to plan your next move, your next project, your next step forward. Instead of sitting in their shadow, you step into your own light. And when you do, something powerful happens. You start attracting people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your growth instead of your pain. Focusing on yourself means asking the hard questions. What do I want? What kind of life am I building? What habits am I creating? What boundaries do I need to protect my energy? What skills, passions, or dreams have I been neglecting? Because I've been too busy managing someone else's negativity. These questions pull you back into alignment with yourself. And alignment is where peace lives. Sometimes shifting your focus back to yourself means walking away from situations that don't serve you. Not out of anger, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. It means recognizing that your life is too valuable to waste in constant conflict. It means choosing to invest in things that bring you peace instead of things that drain it. Every time you make that choice, you reclaim another piece of your power. It's also about self-care in its truest sense. Not just bubble baths and relaxation, but discipline. Building routines that protect your mental, emotional, and physical health. Choosing rest when you need it, choosing exercise to keep your body strong, choosing learning to keep your mind sharp, choosing solitude when you need clarity. Self-care is not indulgence, it's maintenance. And the stronger you become, the harder it is for difficult people to shake you. Another part of this shift is redefining your identity. Difficult people often try to label you too sensitive, too selfish, too demanding, too weak. And if you're not careful, you'll start to internalize those labels. But focusing back on yourself means rewriting that story. It means defining yourself not by what they say, but by who you truly are. You are not their projection. You are not their opinion. You are who you decide to be. And that decision belongs only to you. The beauty of shifting your focus back to yourself is that it creates momentum. The more you invest in your own life, the less time you have for their drama. The more you grow, the less space you have for their chaos. The more peace you build within, the less impact they have without. You literally outgrow their influence because you're too busy evolving. And here's the secret. When you focus on yourself, you don't just change your relationship with difficult people. You change your entire life. You start to attract healthier connections because you no longer tolerate toxic ones. You start to see opportunities because you're not blinded by distractions. You start to feel fulfilled because your energy is finally being poured into places that matter. This is how peace becomes power. Make no mistake, shifting your focus back to yourself is not easy at first. You will feel guilty. You will feel selfish. You may even feel lost because you're so used to centering someone else. But that discomfort is part of the process. It's the growing pain of reclaiming your life. Push through it. Keep going. Because on the other side is freedom. On the other side is clarity. On the other side is you stronger, calmer, more powerful than before. So ask yourself right now, how much more of your energy are you willing to waste on people who will never change? How much longer will you let them dictate your mood, your focus, your time? Or will today be the day you choose to redirect all of that power back to where it always belonged, yourself? Because when you do, you don't just take back your peace, you take back your life. At the end of the day, dealing with difficult people is not about fixing them. It's about fortifying you. It's about realizing that their behavior is theirs to carry, not yours. It's about recognizing their patterns without internalizing them, controlling your response. So they can no longer dictate your emotions, setting boundaries so clear and firm that your peace is non-negotiable, detaching so their chaos cannot poison your mind. And finally, shifting your focus back to where it always should have been, on your growth, your strength, your purpose. You will never silence every critic. You will never eliminate every manipulator. You will never avoid every toxic person. But you don't need to. Because the real victory is not in controlling the world, it's in controlling yourself. Peace is not the absence of difficult people. Peace is the presence of discipline, clarity, and self-respect in the face of them. So the next time you find yourself pulled into someone's storm, remember this: you have a choice. You can give them your power, or you can keep it. You can let them control your day, or you can claim it back. You can shrink in their shadow, or you can stand tall in your own light. Choose the latter, choose to rise above, choose to protect your peace as if it were the most valuable thing you own, because it is. Your peace is your power, and once you learn to guard it fiercely, no difficult person can ever truly take it away. You are not here to be controlled. You are not here to be drained. You are not here to live in reaction to someone else's dysfunction. You are here to live with strength, with clarity, with purpose. And that begins the moment you decide, my peace is mine, my power is mine, and no one gets to take it without my permission. Walk forward with that truth. Hold it close, live it daily, because once you do, you won't just handle difficult people. You'll master them, and in mastering them, you will master yourself.